Showbiz India collaborated with the LA County Department of Mental Health for a focus group with South Asian youth on the subject of mental health. Take a look.
When we talk about mental health, sort of, how do you define that? Like, what does that translate to in your real day-to-day life?
When I hear mental health, I used to feel anxiety, but after learning more about it, having gone through some stuff, I now have a better understanding of what it is. It's not a taboo. If we consider physical health to be important, then we should definitely consider mental health to be of value.
We don't even feel sometimes that we are mentally stressed because, we keep going until we break down.
I think for me, it was more of, I'll just go into this. So I guess when I was 25 and I moved here, that's when I really took account of it for myself. Spiritual awakening, whatever name you want to put on it. I started meditating. Started doing the same stuff like you were mentioning. I used to go to gym every day. What was I doing for my mental well-being? And I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that whatever culture you grow up in, but we've been taught to do things for others. Everything was others, whether it was validation from others, what are you doing for your parents, your name, your society, and all that stuff, had nothing to do with your well-being. It was all expectations. And for me, when I started taking accountability for my well-being, that mental health stigma for me is a freedom now. It doesn't feel painful anymore. It's just a talk. It's not taboo.
Like thinking about right now is like, growing up and living with your parents and your family, it was always just like not something you talked about at all. And then, graduating college and like being an adult now, I'm totally fine with it. Like I would tell my parents like, oh, I've gone to therapy and stuff. And the one thing my dad has to say is, what do you have to go to therapy for, So it's kind of this miscommunication of, yes, like on the outside we have everything, I guess, there's nothing missing materially, but there's definitely a lot going on emotionally that they don't really even think is an issue.
I mean, I went through a lot of stuff when I was younger and stuff, and when I grew up, things that were thrown at you in this industry, you don't know how to process it emotionally. So I believe we call it all or nothing thinking and things like that. And once I started taking accountability of my thoughts and how they were affecting me emotionally, that's when I understood there's a disconnect there. I'm exaggerating things in my mind, and that causes me panic and all that stuff. So once I was able to talk through it, I was able to understand it's not that bad.
Part of what we want to develop an understanding of today is sort of what are the barriers and what are the facilitators. So what helps you take that first step?
That first barrier is actually identifying whether, is this something that causes an issue internally? Is this something that gives me a different emotion than what I was expecting? So, and again, some of the barriers have also been, the stigma of, mental health. When you say mental health, like you said before, the whole cringe.
For me, being of Indian descent, but I was actually born and raised in America, I still needed somebody, I was looking for somebody who was of Indian descent, preferably a woman, and my insurance didn't cover that. And I did finally find somebody who charged an exorbitant amount for an hour, not even an hour session. And so that, I think, is a huge barrier to entry in order to seek help. And I think that's something we need to talk about and in order to change.
I wanted to go to therapy much before, because I knew certain things were coming up, and a lot of times these problems come out a little bit mid-20s later, So that, when I shared that with my parents, they were like, first of all, they were like, no. No, you're not crazy. It took a breakup, and then a year of me being like kind of heartbroken to be like, dude, this is not okay. Like, you can't keep living like this. You need to go and get this out. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I don't care what people think. I'm going where if I need to be a better actor, I'm going to go to an acting coach who knows acting. If I need to get better mental health, which is the only thing I can see that can improve me, I need to go to a therapist.
So when I was 8 months old, I was sent to India for 4 years. I never saw my parents for 4 years. So I had deep-rooted abandonment issues that I actually did a lot of healing last year because I thought I'd healed from it, was coming up a lot for me. My self-worth, especially with women, because your mother's your protector as a child. And I had to have this talk with my mother because, like, Mom, I forgive you. I know that wasn't your intention, but this is the effect it had on me. And that was very important.
For the first time in my life, I'm in like a significant relationship. I have thrown so much at it because I was like, there's no way that this person can just be good to me and nice to me, because there's something wrong with that. So you got to be breaking some plates or throwing something for me to feel love. So like, Like literally my therapist is like, you need to take kindness as love. Like you got to train your brain to do that. And it's hard. Like that's so weird to say that, but it's hard to say that, you know, someone being nice to me and kind to me means that they love me.
How does immigration make a difference to you? And you don't have to get, into it, but I'd really like to know the difference.
This is a big problem in my life because that puts a deadline on my dreams. Yeah, being an immigrant in this country is hard, especially in the current climate. And yeah, and I think that's the kind of stuff that like really adds to the mental health struggles, because now when I have a job opportunity, an audition or something, all those issues are at the back of my mind.
Biggest thing, she mentioned about the going back issue. But the biggest issue is you can't do anything out. I mean, you can't go all out and work anywhere you like. You're so limited, which means financially, you're never secure, because if you come for the entertainment industry, you're going to not get work every day.
I was born here, but I moved to India, right? And I was an immigrant there. And again, without the parents, right? So I went from a 5-bedroom house in Milpitas out to a 1-bedroom with 7 to 8 people where we're showering with buckets. But then I was there for 2 years. Then I came back here for 7th grade, where people are all of a sudden having sex. It's like a totally different, people are getting into knife fights and stuff like that. And then after 7th grade, I went back 8th, 9th, 10th to India. Holy crap. And so for me, it wasn't like, there's something going on with you. It's just like adapt, just get used to whatever's happening. And so I never got to address that mental health part, which you probably understand.
Many of you have found mental health resources, ways to build your mental, emotional well-being muscles and capacity for dealing. How did you do that?
There's the yoga studio I go to. I pretty much live there. Kundalini yoga has been huge for me. Going more into like my own energetic centers and recognizing that it's not about peace of mind, it's peace from mind. So when I started digging more into my own meditation practice and a lot of like Kundalini yoga, it's very different than a normal yoga, but it takes you really deep into your own consciousness. That type of work has been amazing for me and changed my whole perspective.
What would you say are day-to-day things that we can do?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you're here and you're talking about it. I think you're really serving as sort of this forum is really, you're opening up the conversation, you're opening up the door for a lot of other people who are maybe struggling with sort of the stigma, the, what will my parents think, what will, society think, if my ideas at all stray from sort of what's considered the norm in the South Asian community. And I think, so I first of all, I really do want to applaud all of you for talking so openly about sort of going to therapy or what you're doing other than therapy that has really helped ground you and really brought you sort of some clarity. Talk about it with your friends, normalize it, make it personal with other people. The most important thing is if you need help, ask for it, whether it's to your friend or whether it's to your primary care physician, whether it's to a mental health professional, whether it's even to your parent. Sometimes they may really surprise you. That is something I think that we don't do enough as a South Asian community, is ask other people for help.
If you or someone you care about needs help, call the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health 24/7 helpline at 1-800-854-7771. Your call is safe and confidential.